The night always listens. Even when you think you're alone, something rides with you. A shadow in the gas station, eyes empty, smiling as blood drips where it shouldn't. A suit in the dark, watching, calculating, knowing your every lie. A silent SUV stalking streets you thought were safe. And the road never lets you go. Once the doors open, once the djinn whispers in your ear, there's no escape. You can drive, you can hide, you can flee, but something always rides with you.
My name is David, and for a long stretch of my life, I worked the graveyard shift at a gas station marooned in the middle of nowhere. The kind of place where the road feels endless, the wind whispers like it remembers things it shouldn't, and the darkness presses so close it feels sentient. This was years ago, back before security cameras watched every breath you took. Not because they didn't exist, but because the owner was cheap and careless, a man with the memory of a stunned goldfish. We had the same arguments over and over, like we were trapped in some cursed loop. He'd forget, repeat himself, accuse, then forget again. Most nights, though, it was just me, from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m., alone behind the counter, guarding fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. That sound, low, electric, unending, was the only companion I had for hours. Over time, it seeped into my skull, dulling thought, numbing fear, lulling me into a half-waking trance. That night was no different. I leaned against the counter with a magazine, fighting sleep, my reflection faint in the glass cooler doors. Time had lost all meaning. Night wasn't divided into hours anymore. It was one long, suffocating stretch, like wandering through an endless corridor with no exit. Then the door chimed. The sound cut through my head like a blade, sharp, wrong. My heart lurched as I looked up. A man stood in the doorway, tall, early 30s, black, broad-shouldered, athletic, someone who looked like he'd once been powerful, disciplined. For a fleeting second, I thought he might be an ex-athlete, but then my eyes adjusted and the world tilted. He was drenched in blood. Not a little, not a smear. It was everywhere, splashed across his chest in thick, dark patterns, streaked along his arms, smeared into his face like war paint. It was excessive, obscene, the kind of sight your mind rejects because it doesn't belong in reality. For a moment, my brain tried to lie to me. Paint, maybe, some bizarre accident. But deep down, something ancient and animal stirred and whispered the truth. This was blood, fresh, heavy with iron. And yet, he looked calm. That was the worst part. His eyes, empty, hollow, like abandoned rooms, held no panic, no shock, no urgency. He moved the way someone does on an ordinary night, as if he weren't soaked in what could only be described as slaughter. It was as though he didn't even know, or worse, didn't care. I couldn't move, my body locked up, every muscle frozen in place. Each time I forced myself to look away, my gaze snapped right back to his eyes, as if something unseen was dragging my attention there. A subtle pull, a naz like the evil eye itself. He noticed. Of course he did. Slowly, impossibly slowly, he smiled. And when he spoke, his voice was calm, too calm, like a man standing in the shadow of something far older than fear. "Don't worry," he said, almost kindly.
"It's not my blood." The words echoed inside me like a curse. Something deep in my chest whispered a single word: Jinn. Not because I believed he was one, but because my mind needed a name for the dread blooming inside me. This wasn't just a man. This was the kind of presence that walks out of nightmares and leaves them open behind it. And as he stepped fully into the store, the door chiming shut behind him, I realized with sick certainty, this night was already lost.
Fear detonated inside my skull the moment he said those words, "Not my blood." That sentence alone carried more weight than a confession. My mind spiraled, assembling horrific possibilities faster than I could stop them. Someone else's blood meant someone else was hurt or dead, and the thing standing in front of me was calm enough to shop afterward. Panic clawed at my throat, but instinct took over. Some ancient survival reflex whispered that stillness was safer than honesty. I nodded, as if he'd commented on the weather, and dropped my gaze back into the magazine. My hands trembled slightly, but I forced myself to appear bored, indifferent, like a man who hadn't just been visited by something drenched in carnage. Behind the counter, I listened. His footsteps echoed softly as he moved through the aisles, slow, unhurried, like a predator pacing its cage. Every sound, the rustle of packaging, the faint clink of glass, felt amplified beneath the buzzing fluorescent lights. I imagined him watching me from between shelves, those hollow eyes locked onto the back of my head, measuring me. When he finally approached the counter, I nearly flinched out of my skin. He placed a few random items down: junk food, a drink, ordinary things. The banality of it all was nauseating. If he had robbed the place, I wouldn't have stopped him. I would have handed him the register with a smile if it meant he'd leave. But he didn't steal. He paid in cash. That detail stuck with me. Murderers in movies steal. Monsters flee. This man followed rules. I rang him up without meeting his gaze. The smell of blood, faint but unmistakable now, metallic, heavy, ancient. The scent reminded me of something ritualistic, like slaughter performed not in rage, but in obedience to some unseen command. Something whispered in my mind again: haram, najis, unclean. He took the bag, turned, and walked out. The door chimed, and then silence. I waited. 1 second, 2. The sound of an engine starting outside finally snapped me back into my body. My hands flew for the phone. I dialed 911 so fast I nearly dropped it. I told the dispatcher everything, my words tumbling over each other. A man covered in blood, middle of nowhere. Something was wrong, very wrong. I didn't know what he'd done, but I knew it was bad. The dispatcher asked calm, procedural questions while my eyes stayed locked on the front windows, half expecting to see his reflection staring back at me. Then the door chimed again. The sound hit me like a death knell. I froze mid-sentence. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. The air changed, heavy, oppressive, like something malevolent had re-entered its domain. I hung up instantly, but it didn't matter. Through the glass, I saw him striding back toward the counter, fast, furious, his earlier calm completely gone. His eyes were no longer empty, they were burning. He slammed his hands on the counter and demanded to know if I'd called the police. I denied it, my voice shaking despite my effort to stay calm. But he knew. He could smell the lie. His anger radiated off him in waves, raw and animalistic, like a jinn stripped of its chains. He cursed at me, spittle flying, veins bulging in his neck. I raised my hands, palms open, saying nothing, praying silence might placate whatever demon I had awakened. It didn't.
In a single violent motion, he launched himself over the counter. Not climbed, launched. 1 second he was screaming, the next he was on top of me, slamming me to the floor with inhuman force. His hands closed around my throat, and the world narrowed into pain and panic. I fought like a cornered animal, kicking, scratching, biting. The blood smeared across my face, my clothes, my skin. I could feel my vision darkening. I was gonna die there, strangled on a gas station floor under buzzing lights, sacrificed for making the wrong call. With my last shred of will, I screamed that I had a gun, a lie, a desperate, filthy lie. But something in my voice, pure terror, pure conviction, reached him. He froze, his grip loosened, and then he scrambled away like a creature startled by fire, bolting for the door and vanishing into the night. I lay there, gasping, choking, soaked in blood that wasn't all mine. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. The night had only marked me.
I stayed on the floor long after his engine screamed away into the dark. My body refused to obey me. Every breath burned, my throat felt crushed, and my limbs trembled as if they no longer belonged to me. Blood, his, someone else's, and eventually mine, soaked into my clothes, warm at first, then cold and sticky. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, indifferent witnesses to what had just happened. When the police finally arrived, 10 minutes later, maybe more, it felt unreal, like they were stepping into a scene already abandoned by reality. Their boots tracked blood across the tiles. Their radios crackled. Their faces shifted the moment they saw me. They asked questions. I answered mechanically, my voice hollow, like it was echoing up from the bottom of a well. They took my statement, nodded grimly, and then they left, lights flashing, sirens fading into the void beyond the station. They said they'd look for him. They never came back. No follow-up, no updates, no arrest, nothing on the news, no missing persons report that matched the blood-soaked stranger. It was as if the entire incident had been swallowed whole, devoured by the night, like speaking of it too loudly would summon something worse. I went home at sunrise, shaking, bruised, my throat ringed with angry red marks that looked disturbingly like fingerprints burned into flesh. I scrubbed myself raw in the shower, but the smell lingered. Iron, rot, something older than decay. I slept for hours and dreamed of empty eyes staring at me from dark corners, watching, waiting. That should have been the end of it. But a few months later, against all logic, against every warning my instincts screamed, I was still working there. I told myself it was a one-time horror, a freak occurrence, a statistical anomaly. I needed the money, and more than that, I needed to believe the world was still predictable. It wasn't. It was another late night. Same suffocating silence, same buzzing lights, same sense of isolation pressing in from every side. The kind of night where even prayer feels like it can't reach the sky. The door chimed again. This time, the man who entered looked nothing like the first. He was wearing a suit, dark gray, perfectly tailored, expensive in a way you can feel without touching. It clung to him like armor. He didn't belong there, not at that hour, not in that place. He looked like someone who moved in circles far removed from gas stations and dead highways. He didn't browse. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight to the counter. Without a word, he reached into his jacket and slid a photograph toward me. The moment I looked down, my blood ran cold. It was him, the man from months ago, the blood-covered stranger, the thing that had tried to end my life. The photo was grainy, slightly out of focus, but unmistakable. Same face, same hollow stare. The past surged back into me like a curse reawakened. I kept my eyes on the photo, but I could feel the suited man watching me, studying me, measuring, like a judge weighing the truth of a soul. The silence stretched, heavy and deliberate, as if he were invoking something unseen. Finally, he spoke. His voice was rough, gravelly, like it had been scraped raw from smoke and secrets. "Have you ever seen this man before?" Every instinct I had screamed the same word: lie. I said, "No." The suited man didn't react. He just stared at me, his gaze cold and penetrating, like he could peel back layers of flesh and fear to see what hid beneath. The seconds dragged on, each one tightening the invisible noose around my chest. I felt exposed, like my lie had summoned something ancient, an account that was still being calculated. At last, he picked up the photograph and turned away. Relief flooded me, too fast, too foolish. At the door, he stopped. He turned back slowly and looked directly at me. He said, "I know you're lying." Then he left, and I stood there alone, knowing with absolute certainty that something had just marked me again, and this time it wore a suit and spoke with purpose. After that night, the gas station stopped feeling like a workplace and started feeling like a trap. The silence wasn't empty anymore, it was listening. Every shift felt longer, heavier, as if time itself had slowed to savor my unease. I replayed the suited man's voice over and over in my head. "I know you're lying." It sounded less like an accusation and more like a verdict. For a while, nothing happened, and that almost made it worse. Then I noticed the SUV. It was silver, unremarkable at first glance. I saw it parked across the street during my daytime shifts. Harmless enough, people parked there all the time. But then I saw it again, at the grocery store. Different day, different time, same vehicle, same dull metallic sheen reflecting the sun like a watchful eye. The third time, it was on my street. That's when the dread set in, cold, settling, permanent. I told myself I was being paranoid, but paranoia doesn't explain patterns. Over the next 2 weeks, the SUV appeared again and again, always at a distance, always stationary, always silent, never close enough to confront, never far enough to dismiss. It felt deliberate, like someone drawing a circle tighter and tighter around me. What terrified me most was the implication. Somehow, whoever was in that vehicle knew where I lived, knew my routines, my isolation. I lived alone, no security system, no protection, just thin walls and darkness. I planned to call the police the next time I saw it, quietly, carefully, but something held me back. A deep, instinctive fear rooted in memory. The last time I'd involved the authorities, violence had followed almost immediately. My mind whispered a superstitious warning, the kind you'd hear in old Arabic folk tales. Do not name the jinn, or it will hear you. So I waited. 3 weeks after the first sighting, I was ripped out of sleep by the sound of shattering glass. There was no confusion this time, no disbelief. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I grabbed the baseball bat from under my bed and rushed into the living room, heart pounding like a war drum. The apartment was small. I cleared it in minutes. No intruder.
But in the center of the living room, surrounded by broken glass, sat a rock. Just a rock, fist-sized, ordinary, silent. No note, no message, none was needed. I understood immediately. This wasn't a break-in, it was a warning, a risala, a reminder that distance meant nothing to whoever was watching me. The fear that settled into my bones then felt ritualistic, like I'd crossed some unseen boundary and been noticed by something ancient and unforgiving. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I quit my job. I didn't give notice. I didn't explain. I just left. Within weeks, I was packing up my life and moving to a bland, forgettable apartment a few towns over, somewhere anonymous, somewhere I hoped the past couldn't find me. During that month, I never saw the SUV again, and eventually, nothing happened. I found another job. I moved again less than a year later, this time out of state, far away, far enough that I convinced myself I'd escaped whatever shadow had been trailing me. But even now, years later, I still think about it. The first encounter was violent, brutal, immediate, but the second was something else entirely, calculated, patient, like being stalked by a force that didn't need to hurry. I never understood why someone would go to such lengths, harassment, surveillance, intimidation, just because I'd reported a man covered in blood. The only explanation that ever made sense was the worst one, that they believed I knew something, and that belief alone had been enough to mark me.
With time, the sharp edges of fear dulled, but they never disappeared. They sank inward instead, embedding themselves deep in my thoughts like barbs I could never fully pull out. Life moved on, new jobs, new cities, new routines, but the memories clung to me like a curse whispered under the breath of the world. I often wondered what would have happened if I'd answered differently, if I'd lied better, if I'd never picked up the phone that first night. In quieter moments, darker thoughts crept in. Maybe the man in the suit wasn't hunting the blood-covered stranger at all. Maybe he was cleaning up after something far older, far more organized, something that didn't tolerate witnesses. Something that operated with the patience of an ancient Ifrit, bound not by emotion, but by obligation. The absence of answers was its own torment. No arrest, no closure, just silence, thick, deliberate silence, as if the world itself had agreed not to speak of what I'd seen. And in that silence, my mind filled the gaps with things best left unimagined. Even now, when I hear a door chime late at night, my body tenses. When I see a silver SUV on the road, my pulse quickens. And sometimes, when the world is quiet and the lights hum just right, I swear I can feel it. That same invisible gaze, watching, waiting, knowing. Whatever that man was, whatever I brushed up against that night, it didn't end when I left. It simply let me go. And that, more than anything, is what still terrifies me.
The next part of this story is so terrifying you might not have the courage to listen. Tell me, where are you listening from? How scared are you? Comment below. If new, subscribe now. Months had passed since the blood-soaked night, but the fear never truly left me. It just learned how to hide. I convinced myself the gas station was safe again, not because it felt safe, but because I needed it to be. Routine is a powerful lie. It tells you that if nothing has happened recently, nothing ever will. That lie shattered the moment he walked in. The door chimed softly, almost politely, and I looked up expecting another tired traveler or an insomniac grabbing coffee. Instead, I saw him, immaculate, composed, utterly out of place. He wore a dark gray suit that looked custom-made, the fabric catching the fluorescent light in a way that felt wrong, like polished stone in a tomb. His shoes were spotless, his posture was perfect. He did not belong to the night the way normal people did. Something ancient in my chest stirred, the same instinct that once made desert travelers whisper prayers when encountering strangers at crossroads. Gharib, an outsider, someone who carried secrets like hidden blades. He didn't browse, didn't glance at the shelves, didn't even acknowledge the store. His attention was fixed on me, though his eyes never quite settled on my face. It was as if he were looking through me, searching for something buried beneath skin and memory. He stopped at the counter. Without a word, he reached inside his jacket and produced a photograph. When he slid it toward me, my fingers went cold. I recognized the face instantly. The blood-covered man, the one with empty eyes, the one who had nearly killed me under buzzing lights and flickering shadows. The image wasn't perfectly clear, grainy, distant, but it was unmistakable. The past surged up like a djinn released from a cracked seal, flooding my senses with panic and dread. I stared at the photograph longer than I should have, long enough to give myself away. The suited man watched me in silence, his presence pressed down on the room, suffocating, deliberate. The fluorescent light seemed dimmer, the air heavier, as if the store itself had become a sealed chamber, a majlis for judgment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough and low, like stone dragged across stone. "Have you ever seen this man before?" In that instant, something inside me screamed a warning older than reason, a truth passed down through fear and folklore alike. Never answer honestly when the question feels like a trap. I swallowed and said no. The word hung between us, fragile and thin, and as he stared at me, unblinking, calculating, I felt as though I had just lied not to a man, but to something that did not need proof to know the truth. The silence stretched, heavy with unseen consequences, and I knew with absolute certainty that this encounter was only the beginning.
The suited man didn't react to my answer. Not immediately. He just stood there, eyes locked on mine now, no longer pretending otherwise. There was no anger in his expression, no surprise, only patience. The kind that comes from certainty, from knowing time is a weapon that will always work in your favor. I could feel my lie unraveling in the space between us. Seconds passed, maybe longer. The store felt sealed off from the rest of the world, like we were standing inside a forgotten shrine where truth was weighed and found wanting. I imagined unseen witnesses pressed into the corners of the ceiling, listening, recording. Finally, he reached out and picked up the photograph. The moment his fingers touched it, the tension snapped, just a little. He folded the picture once, neatly, like a ritual completed, and slid it back into his jacket. Then he turned and began walking toward the door. Relief rushed through me so fast it almost made me dizzy. But relief is a dangerous thing. It blinds you. His hand was on the door when he stopped. He turned back slowly, his movement precise, deliberate. His eyes found mine again, and this time there was something new in them. Recognition, not of my face, but of my fear. "I know you're lying," the words said. They weren't loud, they weren't threatening, they were delivered like a statement of fact, like gravity or death. Then he opened the door and disappeared into the night. The chime echoed far longer than it should have. For several days after that, nothing happened. No phone calls, no strangers, no signs. I tried to convince myself I'd imagined the weight of his presence, the way his gaze had felt like it was peeling back layers of my mind. Then I saw the SUV. It was parked across the street from the gas station during my day shift. Silver, clean, engine off. No one inside. At least no one I could see. I dismissed it, barely noticed it. The next time, it was in the grocery store parking lot. The third time, it was on my street. That's when the pattern revealed itself, like a sigil slowly completing its shape. The realization settled into my stomach with a sickening certainty. I was being watched, studied, circled. The SUV never followed me directly. It didn't need to. It simply appeared, always at a distance, always still, a silent sentinel, a reminder.
2 weeks passed like that, days stretched thin by dread, nights poisoned by anticipation. I slept lightly, if at all, waking at every sound, every imagined movement outside my walls. The silver SUV became a constant presence in my thoughts, even when it wasn't there, or when I told myself it wasn't. Then one night, the waiting ended. I was ripped awake by the sound of glass exploding, not a crash, not an accident, a violent, deliberate shatter that sent adrenaline screaming through my veins. I was on my feet before my mind caught up, gripping the baseball bat from under my bed like it was a lifeline. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might tear free. The apartment was silent, too silent. I moved room to room, every step careful, every breath shallow. No intruder, no movement, no footsteps retreating into the night, just the sound of my own pulse roaring in my ears. And then I saw it. In the middle of the living room, surrounded by jagged shards of broken window glass, sat a rock. It wasn't large. It wasn't special, just a piece of the earth, rough and unremarkable, like it had been plucked from the roadside. But its placement was precise, intentional, almost ceremonial. No note, no symbol, no explanation. None was needed. The meaning settled over me with horrifying clarity. This wasn't vandalism. It wasn't a warning shot. It was a declaration. I can reach you whenever I want. I stood there for a long time, staring at the rock, feeling something fundamental inside me break. Whatever illusion of control I'd been clinging to dissolved in that moment. This wasn't going to stop, not on its own, and not gently. By morning, my decision was made. I quit the gas station without hesitation, no notice, no goodbye. I packed my life into boxes with shaking hands and began searching for somewhere, anywhere else to disappear. Somewhere faceless, somewhere forgettable, somewhere that didn't know my name. A month later, I moved a few towns away. During that time, I never saw the SUV again. And when the silence returned, deep, absolute, unnatural, I wondered which terrified me more, being watched or being allowed to go. The move should have felt like salvation. New walls, new streets, new faces that didn't know what I'd seen or what had seen me. The apartment was bland to the point of invisibility. Beige carpet, thin walls, no distinguishing features. Exactly what I wanted. A place that felt like it could swallow me whole and forget I'd ever existed. For a while, it worked. No silver SUV, no strangers in suits, no rocks through windows. I found another job, settled into a routine, and let myself believe, cautiously, that whatever had been stalking me had lost interest, or perhaps achieved whatever goal it had in letting me live. But peace felt fragile, temporary, like the calm that settles over the desert right before a sandstorm tears through it. I started noticing changes in myself instead, how I checked reflections before trusting them, how every unexpected knock made my muscles tense, how silence no longer soothed me, it accused me. My mind replayed the suited man's voice again and again, calm and certain. I know you're lying. The implication gnawed at me. Lying about what? Seeing the blood-covered man, or something else entirely? Something I hadn't realized I'd witnessed. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if the suited man had been a detective or something adjacent to law enforcement. But that explanation never sat right. If he'd been official, he would have identified himself. He would have followed procedure. He wouldn't have stalked me like prey. No, whatever he was, he operated outside the rules. The thought that truly haunted me crept in slowly, like poison in water. Maybe he hadn't been trying to intimidate me at all. Maybe he'd been trying to assess me, to decide whether I was a liability or a resource. That idea made my skin crawl. Less than a year later, I moved again, this time out of state, farther, far enough that I told myself no one could realistically follow. I cut ties, changed routines, became careful in ways I'd never been before. And still, every now and then, when I pass a silver SUV on the highway, my chest tightens. When I see a man in a well-tailored suit standing too still, watching too closely, my breath catches. I don't know if I was ever truly in danger. What I do know is this: whatever that man represented didn't need to finish the job to succeed. He had already taught me the lesson: disappear or be erased. Eventually, life resumed its shape, not its innocence, just its structure. Days stacked on top of each other, work, sleep, distraction. I learned how to function with fear sitting quietly in the passenger seat of my mind. It never spoke anymore. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough. Years passed. No calls, no sightings, no rocks, no messages. And yet, the silence never felt empty. Silence can be louder than threats when you understand what it means. In the old stories, silence is what comes after the jinn has decided you are no longer worth the effort. Or worse, after it has marked you and moved on, knowing the mark will do the work for it. I sometimes wonder if the man in the suit ever found what he was looking for, or if he realized in that fluorescent-lit gas station that I was never the answer, just a footnote, collateral, a witness who knew too little and yet too much. The blood-covered man still visits my dreams, always standing just outside the frame, his empty eyes fixed on me, his mouth stretched into that calm, unnatural smile. And behind him, somewhere just out of sight, I can feel another presence, watching, evaluating, patient. I've accepted that I'll never know the truth, but I've also accepted something else. Some doors don't close when you walk away from them. They simply stop making noise, and when they finally open again, you won't hear the chime. The next part of this story is so terrifying you might not have the courage to listen. Tell me, where are you listening from? How scared are you? Comment below. If new, subscribe now. This happened about 8 months ago. I remember that detail clearly because life felt normal then. Tired, routine, but normal. I was driving back from a job site nearly 3 hours away from home. The kind of job that drains you down to the bone, leaving nothing but muscle memory and stubbornness to carry you forward. By the time I hit the road, it was already past 10 p.m., and exhaustion wrapped itself around my thoughts like a heavy cloak. My truck wasn't anything special. No assisted driving, no warning systems, just old metal, worn seats, and my hands on the wheel. Every mile demanded attention I barely had left. My eyelids kept sinking, my head nodding despite my best efforts. I knew the signs. I'd driven long enough to recognize when sleep starts hunting you. About 45 minutes in, I gave in and pulled off at the next gas station. The place was quiet, too quiet, but I didn't care. I filled the tank, smoked a cigarette under the harsh white lights, and tried to decide what to do. 2 more hours of driving felt impossible, so I did what I'd done before. I parked at the far edge of the lot, killed the engine, and leaned the seat back. Sleep took me instantly. When my alarm went off, it felt like no time had passed at all. My body was still heavy, but my mind was clear enough. The parking lot was empty now. No other cars, no movement. I didn't think much of it. I started the truck and pulled back onto the highway, swallowed again by darkness. For the first 20 minutes, everything was fine. The road was empty, stretching endlessly ahead. I slipped into that strange mental state where your body drives and your mind floats, half awake, half elsewhere. That's when I noticed the sound, a faint thump. At first, I didn't register it as anything unusual. My brain was too foggy. Only after several seconds did it click that the noise didn't belong. I turned the AC down and listened more carefully. Another thump, soft, rhythmic, coming behind me. I glanced into the rear-view mirror. Nothing. I checked the back seat. Empty. I told myself it was probably something shifting in the truck bed, one of my tools maybe, metal on metal, nothing worth pulling over for. Still, the sound continued, persistent, patient, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. Annoyance replaced fear. I turned the radio up, drowning it out. At one point, frustration got the better of me, and I slapped the hood of the truck, cursing out loud into the night. And then, the noise stopped, just like that. The sudden silence unsettled me more than the sound ever had. Inanimate things don't respond to anger. They don't listen. My mind started connecting dots it had no business connecting. Old instincts stirred, those primitive warnings buried deep in the spine. In Arabic folklore, there's a saying, when the al-Tariq answers back, you are not alone. I was still debating whether to pull over when it happened.
A deafening crack exploded behind me, violent, unmistakable, like something being hurled with purpose. The sound wasn't mechanical, it wasn't random, it was an attack. And in that instant, before I even turned around, I knew with sick certainty I had not been driving alone.
The steering wheel jerked in my hands. Instinct took over before fear could catch up. I pressed the brake just enough to steady the truck, heart slamming so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. Whatever hit me had real weight, enough to rattle the entire frame. I pulled over to the shoulder, hazards flashing against the endless black of the road. Silence again. Too perfect, too intentional. I stayed inside the cab for a full minute, eyes locked on the mirrors. My breath fogged the windshield as I tried to convince myself it was road debris, a loose rock, maybe a tire blowout from another vehicle long gone. But deep down, I knew. Road debris doesn't wait until you're calm. I grabbed the flashlight from the glove box and stepped out. The night air felt thick, pressing against my skin. My boots crunched softly on gravel as I circled the truck. The rear window was intact, the tailgate untouched. No dents, no scratches, nothing. That should have been a relief. Instead, my stomach tightened. Then I saw it. A handprint, not on the metal, but on the dust coating the side panel, perfectly formed, 5 fingers, human-sized, pressed flat, as if someone had braced themselves while moving. The dust around it was undisturbed, like the hand had appeared there without sliding into place. I wiped my palm across it. The print didn't smear. It stayed. My flashlight flickered. I froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The air behind me shifted, heavy with something that didn't belong. A smell reached me, earthy, damp, like soil turned over after rain. Breathing, slow, controlled, close. In the old stories, elders warn, "Jokun keu tomar nam jani, kintu tumi take chino na, tokun deri korona, palao." I didn't wait for confirmation. I jumped back into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and floored the gas. The truck roared forward, tires screaming in protest. In the mirror, just for a fraction of a second, I saw movement, low, fluid, impossibly fast, keeping pace before melting into the darkness. The handprint vanished from the dust as if it had never been there. But something else remained. The passenger seat belt was no longer fully retracted. It was stretched out, as if someone had just unbuckled it.
The truck screamed down the empty highway, tires chewing the asphalt as adrenaline replaced exhaustion. Every muscle in my body was taut, but something deeper, something ancient was alert. My eyes darted constantly to the mirrors, to the shadows lining the road, to the dark corners of the cab. And then I noticed it. The back seat, or rather the truck bed, was no longer empty. A shape, wrapped tight in a black trash bag, shifted slightly with the motion. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, sleep deprivation, exhaustion, my mind playing cruel tricks. But the smell hit me before I could rationalize anything. Rotten, decay, something that smelled as though it had been buried for days under desert sands. My stomach turned violently. My hands trembled on the wheel, gripping it like a lifeline to reality. I pulled over abruptly, the truck jerking violently. The bag thumped against the bed, wet and heavy as if alive. Panic clawed at my throat. I needed it gone, away, far away. I opened the truck bed, but didn't touch it at first, just stared, breathing shallow, trying to summon courage. Then, with all the precision fear could muster, I grabbed the bag. It was heavier than it looked, squishy under my hands, coated in something dark, red, sticky, reminiscent of blood, the kind of blood that lingers even after washing.
I hurled it into the trees lining the highway, the bag landing with a sickening thud. I stepped back, wiped my hands on my jeans, and almost gagged at the smell that lingered. My mind tried to grasp the impossible. How did it get there? When? Was someone in the bed the whole time? I didn't wait to find out. Sliding back into the driver's seat, I sped off into the night, eyes scanning every shadow, every dark curve of the road. Somewhere behind me, I swear I heard something soft scraping against the truck bed, persistent, deliberate, a sound that promised it wasn't done yet. I didn't speak. I didn't breathe more than necessary. All I could do was drive, faster, farther, anywhere that could pretend to be safe. And even then, the memory of the smell, the wet, putrid proof of something horrifying, stuck with me, like a curse whispered in the wind, like a djinn that had decided I was worth noticing.
I thought throwing the bag away would end it. I thought stopping for a moment had been my only mistake. But some things, once they latch on to you, do not let go. The faster I drove, the stranger the road became. My GPS flickered and died. The radio offered only static, occasionally whispering. Not words, not language, but something undeniably present. I glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. 10 minutes later, I looked again. 11:47 p.m. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I didn't stop the truck, but I knew I wasn't moving forward. The road had trapped me in a loop. The same curve, the same trees, the same broken sign, half-erased letters still faintly visible. Stop while you can. Then, from inside the truck, a sound. Not from behind, not from outside. The passenger seat. The water bottle in the cup holder rolled slowly, as if someone had nudged it with a hand. The seat cover shifted, pressing down. Weight. Presence. I didn't look. I had made that mistake before. A cold breath grazed my ear. You didn't let me out. The voice was neither male nor female, dry, ancient, like something long unused, like a djinn speaking through a human throat. I squeezed my eyes shut and whispered, "Who are you?" A laugh, no joy in it, just certainty, a weight of inevitability. I am what you picked up on the road. The truck slammed its brakes on its own. Through the headlights, I saw the same place, the gas station, the one where I had slept hours ago. The lights above the doors flickered, pale and cold. Inside, the lot was empty. The glass door reflected nothing unusual, except faint words scrawled in dust. Welcome back. I froze behind the wheel. The truck idled, humming softly, but the air inside it felt alive, thick, breathing, watching. Every instinct I had screamed to run, to leave the vehicle, to disappear into the darkness, but my body refused. I was anchored, cursed to witness whatever was waiting. The passenger seat shifted again, slowly. A silhouette formed beneath the dim cab light, a figure hunched, unnaturally still. I could see nothing clearly, only the outline, tall, thin, arms that seemed too long, fingers curling as if testing their reach. Its head lifted just enough for me to glimpse the face. Eyes, hollow, black,
infinite, the djinn-like gaze of something ancient and patient. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flee. Instead, I found my voice barely audible. "Who are you?" The figure's lips didn't move. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere, vibrating inside my skull. "I have been with you the whole way." My hands trembled on the wheel. The bag in the truck bed, rotting, wet, and horrifying, suddenly felt connected, like it was a token, a vessel of the being's will. The air smelled rancid, metallic. Fear wrapped around me like chains forged in hellfire. Then it spoke again, softer. "Some doors never close. You opened this one, even by accident. Now I ride with you." The truck shuddered as if something had pressed its weight into the frame. I couldn't breathe. Every instinct told me the figure could kill, could vanish and reappear anywhere, could undo me before I even had the chance to react. I slammed the truck into gear and tore down the road, tires skidding on gravel, headlights cutting through the night, yet the presence never left. It moved with me, silent but palpable, an eternal passenger. I realized then the horrifying truth. Running meant nothing. Leaving meant nothing. Some entities in the desert tales, the whispered Arabic legends, don't chase. They follow, they linger, and they do not forgive. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I no longer had a sense of time. Only the constant, oppressive presence beside me, the weight of something inhuman, the knowledge that nothing in the world could ever free me from the road I had unwittingly traveled. By the time dawn bled pale light over the horizon, I was miles from anywhere I recognized. The truck was scarred, my hands bloody from gripping the wheel, but the figure remained, waiting, watching, silent. I knew deep down I would never be alone again. Some doors do not close, and once opened, the djinn rides with you forever.
And this is where today's frightening tale comes to a close. The night is still young, and the shadows are still watching. Subscribe for more terrifying stories if fear doesn't stop you.